This meeting is being recorded.
We're all here on April 4th, 2024 for the Executive Board meeting of the Metro Plan. And I want to call this meeting to order. And could we have roll call?
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the board. At this time, we'll have roll call. Chair Vasquez. It's noted that Chair Vasquez is absent. Vice Chair Sweet. And it is noted that Vice Chair Sweet is absent. Member Begay.
I'm here.
Member Aslan.
Present.
Member Williams.
Present.
Member McCarthy.
I'm here.
And it is noted that Member McCarthy is acting as chair. Member Thompson. And we note that we have no alternates present today. Executive Director Morley.
Here.
Planning Manager Wessel. It is noted that Planning Manager Wessel is not here today. Transportation Planner Gonzalez. Transportation Planner Tavell.
Here.
Transportation Planner Austin. Here. Montoya Fellow Holiday. And it's noted that Montoya Fellow Holiday is excused. AmeriCorps Flores. Here. And I'm Karen Moeller, and I'm here.
All right. Do we have any public comment today, either online or? I don't believe we do. So let's move on to approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes. What I would like to do is do the minutes from February 15th first and separate from the other ones. Do any of the board members have any suggested edits or questions? Could we get a motion to approve the meeting minutes for February 15th?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments? That was Mr. Williams and Mr. Thompson with the second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay, let's move on now to the March 7th minutes. And there were a couple little minor changes. Karen, can you kind of like suggest the changes that would be in addition to what was sent out to the board?
Yes, Chair McCarthy, the changes that we have noted on these minutes, under number 5, the consider regional transportation safety plan. A sentence was changed in the first paragraph to say staff shared who the members of the project review committee were. And then in the following paragraph in the same staff report, it says Member Thompson wondered if the location of the Dairy Queen instead of stated. That was changed. In the closing business, the fourth paragraph, at the request of Member McCarthy, we have spelled out Infrastructure and Investment Jobs Act for IIJA. And finally, 2 paragraphs later, the first sentence now reads, the recent proposed legislation is to change Arizona Smart Fund eligibility for matching funds for competitive federal application.
Thank you, Karen. I was the one that kind of instigated all of those, including just spelling out acronyms, et cetera. Are there any other comments? Could we get a motion to approve as amended?
Chairman, I will go ahead and move with the changes.
Right.
I'll second that.
All right. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And anybody
Aye.
opposed? Thank you. That passes unanimously. There's nothing on the consent agenda today, so we're down to general business. And Kate, are you going to take over for Mr. Wessel since he isn't here today?
Yes, unfortunately, he is under the weather, so I will do his items.
All right, so we're down to item C1, and I'll let you introduce it since you know what you're doing.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. This is an update to the very long titled Metro Plan Mountain Line Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan. That is a title given to us by ADOT. And it is for action. So the coordinated plan is a planning effort that is meant to identify strategies, projects, operations to support transportation for people with disabilities and older adults. We create this plan in coordination with Mountain Line and have for at least a decade. That's as far back as my knowledge goes, but it could be longer. Every year we are required to do a minor update. Every 3 or 4 years, we do a major update where we really revisit what strategies and solutions we're looking at. But in our minor updates, we are required to update our vehicle inventories and any planned grant applications that may have changed. We do this through a committee that's formed that's called the Coordinated Mobility Council, made up of many of our human service agencies and some members of the public. And typically we adopt this both at Metro Plan and at Mountain Line. The Mountain Line TAC did hear this today and recommended to their board to move it forward. So as I mentioned, it's just a minor update. It's really updating the vehicle inventory list, so the major activities that happens, and then stating any planned applications for the year. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
No questions. You must have done a good job. So my understanding is we need to adopt the Metro Plan Mountain Line Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan update. Could I have a motion to do that? You could just say so moved. That's
So moved.
okay.
Second,
All right. Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 And aye. There's no dissenting votes. And so that passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Morley. All right, the next item is 2, and this is the fiscal agent agreement with Creative Flagstaff for the Cheshire Slow Street Asphalt Art Project. So Ms. Austin, please take it away.
Thank you. That's a mouthful as well.
Yes.
This is an action item. The original agreement that MetroPlan entered was with Creative Flagstaff. Creative Flagstaff had a change in leadership. Oh. There. They had a change in leadership, and so we needed to have a fiscal agent agreement signed before their change happened. And so we need the board to ratify the signature that Executive Director Morley signed the document. The money does not flow through MetroPlan. It flows through Creative Flagstaff, and we just needed to make those official changes on the document. Legal counsel has approved this document as well. So we just need to ratify the signature.
Mr. Aslan?
Thank you. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I'll ask anyway. I'm aware that Mr. Stone has announced he's on his way out. Has he been replaced yet? Is there a new executive director at this time?
No, the interim director is Julie Komnick. And so I think they're in the preparation of opening that up. I understand it's a pretty large, highly, I don't know, people want this position. Yes.
Yeah, and I assume you guys know what you're talking about. It's sufficient to continue this agreement through the interim? Okay.
Any other questions? All right, could we get a motion to ratify the fiscal agent agreement with Creative Flagstaff for the Cheshire Slow Street Asphalt Art Project?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second,
And that was a second?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, next up, Karen Mueller is going to talk.
Sorry. May I?
Yeah.
It's part of the Bloomberg. We're continuing. I thought the board might want to see the video that was just put out.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I'm not sure about the sound, but I thought it would be nice to give you an update. Okay, hold on. Let me try one thing to see if I can get the sound. Oh, you could? Oh.
Plan is so excited to bring the Cheshire Slow Street Asphalt Art Project to the community. We wrote and won a Bloomberg Asphalt Art Grant Award, the first award of its kind for Flagstaff, with the goal of calming traffic on Fremont Boulevard through geometric changes to the roadway that will slow traffic and art that will heighten awareness.
So we had some concerns from the citizens and we came out and did speed studies, and according to our residential traffic management guide, it qualified for traffic mitigation. And so that's why we're out here today trying to find ways to slow the speeds. So this project is focused both on motorists and pedestrians. Like, we're hoping to slow the vehicles, but also to reduce the space that the pedestrians need to cross through installing asphalt art.
I've lived here since 2018, so going on 5 years here, and my daughter has grown up in this neighborhood. She was born the year after we moved in. I have been concerned about the speeding on Fremont as long as I've lived here. You know, the park and the trail access are things that I really love about this neighborhood. My name is Dana Camberg. I am a local artist and educator. Our students are Fala high schoolers. They're all art students putting together curriculum to engage Fala students and teach them how to work specifically with public art, specifically with focus groups, and then developing compositions that have a mindfulness for negative space.
If the project is successful, we anticipate maybe considering this in other places, but we're very curious to see how this will affect the speeds, and that'll be one of our major considerations before we move on to other places.
MetroPlan, Creative Flagstaff, the City of Flagstaff, Flagstaff Arts and Leadership Academy, Love and Contracting, and community members are collaborating to host a block party on Saturday, May 18th on North Fremont Boulevard in the Cheshire neighborhood to paint the street as part of the Art X Festival. In culmination with the Art X program, we're going to want to make sure that we've got enough space for everybody, enough supplies for everybody, which means RSVPs are super duper important. So just keep an eye out on social media at MetroPlan on Facebook and MetroPlan Flag on Instagram. We hope that you will join us on May 18th.
Thank you. That's it. Sorry for the addition of a video.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I enjoyed that. All right, we're down to item 3, which is the financial management policy, and Karen Mueller is going to present this.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the board. At this time, we're going to present the updated financial management policy for MetroPlan. The financial management policy was adopted in 2020, and since then we've had numerous changes, more staff added, and different acquisitions since that time. We've also moved our offices from the city over to Mountain Line, and so we have different IT management and other things that are going on. So we wanted to update our financial policy to reflect those changes, as well as to define the duties and internal controls that we've placed in place for our financial proceedings. Many of those, many of the changes that we're addressing today in the bulleted list below result from the audit that we recently went through with Heinfield Meach, and then our audit with ADOT. And so we have changed in the financial policy, the updates have been made to change staff titles. We also refer to Mountain Line IT for backup of our financial documents. All of our IT is now under Mountain Line's umbrella as well. We have additional review and approval of journal entries and monthly bank reconciliations in this new plan, and that's done by the executive director. All the expenses, invoices, and billings are coded by staff and approved by the executive director now. Recognition that most invoices are paid electronically has been made, and the executive director now initiates all the electronic payments. And finally, requirements for a monthly profit and loss by class statement to ensure costs are appropriately charged to grants is being required of our financial consultant. Are there any questions? Honorable Chair?
Well, no questions. So we need a motion to adopt the financial management plan as presented in the packet.
So move.
All right, thank you. Could we get a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you, Karen. Good presentation. The next item is the application for the Neighborhood Access and Equity Reconnecting Communities Pilot Programs Research Grant. We should have a contest for the longest title. All right, Kate, I think you're going to take this. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. Yes, I think the titles created formatting problems this month. Again, two parts to this action here. The Neighborhood Access and Equity Reconnecting Communities pilot program looks at ways for communities to overcome barriers from past transportation investments. It is a research program. So in collaborating with our member NAU, we discussed opportunities that they may want to pursue as a research opportunity and went ahead and applied for this grant. This is another situation where the opportunity came up very quickly and the white paper was due. And so we actually already submitted. The value of the white paper is if awarded, the research that is identified in the white paper, the value is $180,000. There's no financial commitment from Metro Plan. And the idea would be that we would pass that funding through to NAU to actually do the research. We would not do the research in-house. So what does NAU want to do with that? They have a tool called the CRANK tool, and I can't remember exactly what that stands for, but I can tell you that it looks at the comfort of bikeways within the community and how comfortably you can access a variety of destinations. So can you get to the grocery store comfortably? Can you get to the hospital comfortably? Those types of things. So Dr. Stephen Gerke at NAU leads this research. And you may recall from one of our past 3-bullet briefings that our Montoya Fellow received a large acknowledgement at a conference, a research conference, for some of the efforts that he has assisted with Dr. Gerke on this effort. So if awarded, they'll basically expand the tool and make it that much better. And we would come back to the board to look at a subrecipient agreement with NAU. There's still a couple more phases between now and award. I think they review our white paper, and then we're invited to submit a larger white paper, and then they decide who gets the research. But we wanted to be able to take advantage of the opportunity, so went ahead and made application. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
No questions.
Chairman. Katie, how long will this study be? That's,
I don't know that I've heard a timeline for how long it would be, but it's something that I believe NAU has been working on for over a year to develop the Crank tool. And I think this just gives them the additional resources they need to expand it. I'm not sure if anyone knows how long they're anticipating it would take. Research typically is long term, so I imagine it'll be iterative development of the tool.
Mhm.
Um,
okay, thank
yeah.
Any other questions? All right, so we need a motion to authorize MetroPlan to apply for the noted pilot programs and to authorize our executive director to execute the grant agreement when we get it. So could I get a motion to that effect?
So move.
So moved. Mr. Thompson, thank you.
I'll second that.
All right, Mr. Oslin. All right, second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes without dissent. Thank you, Ms. Morley. You're going to stay up for the next one, which is the intergovernmental agreement, IGA, between the city of Flagstaff and MetroPlan concerning cash advances. And I guess, and please kind of go into the history of what our legal counsel is advising, et cetera.
Thank you, Chair. So the cash advance fund is an outcome of a discussion that the board had at their January meeting where we talked about cash flow challenges at MetroPlan. And this is really ultimately a good thing. The federal grants that we receive are all reimbursement based. There's no grant outside of the Bloomberg grant where they give us the money up front. We have to make the expenses and then apply for reimbursement. And the IIJA, or the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, basically doubled our funding, which is excellent news, but it's also created a challenge for us to have enough funding on hand to front the money while we wait for reimbursement, especially because it can take 2 or 3 months for us to get reimbursed depending on the timeline of invoices, et cetera. So cash ultimately is limiting our ability to spend down our grants because we don't have enough cash on hand. And so by bringing more cash on hand, we can better deliver the programs that we have. Previously, our financial management with budget adoption, it was stated that we needed about 1/4 year of our operating budget. And we have 4 categories of our budget: operating, projects, salaries and benefits, and travel and training. And operating is actually a very small portion of our budget, so not adequate to sustain all 4 categories. What we really need is 1/4 of our total budget, not our operating budget. I'm not going to go through all the items on here, but this is just a reminder that I have had discussions with the city and the county, who are the agencies that formed MetroPlan, about a variety of ways that we could resolve our cash flow problem. And really the ultimate solution that was supported by all agencies and the city in particular, which is important because the agreement is with the city, is to set up a cash advance fund, which is actually how the city also funds Mountain Line. So Mountain Line's in the same position. They're reimbursement-based grants. The city provides them cash to have on hand, and then it's reimbursed in the same fashion. So because that arrangement already exists and is familiar, everybody was comfortable with something along those lines to move it forward. I want to point out that there are a lot of benefits to the city in doing this. So here are some of them. So we provide currently over $1 million of funding to the city in grants. So that is us taking our federal money and giving it to the city. We have to front all of that money. So they're essentially helping us front the money that we are passing along to them. Beyond the city, we also provide $400,000 to Mountain Line in our current budget from grants that we are making them a subrecipient of. We've made NAU a subrecipient of $50,000 already, in addition to what we would look at in this grant. And we provide non-monetary benefits to our partners as well. We do transportation modeling on behalf of our partners when they need it. We do plan development that they request, such as the West Route 66 study. We provide grant writing assistance at no cost to our partners, and in fact, fully write the grants for them sometimes. And we do data collection and we provide that to them, as well as analysis and provide that to them. So there are a lot of benefits to the partners and to the city in particular. And with all those subrecipient agreements that we have out now, we're looking at more. We just submitted our Safe Streets for All supplemental planning effort that the board approved last month for 2.6 million yesterday. Congratulations to Sandra on that. That would be more money that we want to bring into the community. We just need cash flow to keep those things moving. So a couple things about the agreement. So there was a follow-up email to the packet to the board from our attorney, because there was a sentence in there that said, we're still in a draft of this agreement, but our cash flow, we think we're close. The council has this agendized, I believe, on the 16th of April or thereabout. And we're trying to get this moving because we do need cash on hand. It is a current challenge for us. So the idea is that you would authorize myself and the attorney to finalize the agreement that is roughly outlined, and I think we're in the final stages of. One potential change that I just want everyone to be very clear about is potentially the title. The city is deciding whether or not they want this to be an IGA or a cooperative agreement. Metro Plan is open to whichever format. The legal implications are the same. So we're finalizing some of those things, but the email from Brandon Kavanaugh, our legal counsel, was to really clarify that he has not approved the draft in your packet. He's working with me to finalize it, and he has reviewed what we have to date, and there are no major red flags. So did want to clarify that for the board, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? I'll just note that this, as you mentioned, this is going before the council and they will have to approve it. You've already coordinated with Rick Tatter, who is our chief financial guru, and he is all right with it. I asked a few questions, so I won't get into those details, but the city is good with it. So any other questions or comments before we move on? So we need a motion to authorize our executive director to enter into an intergovernmental agreement, or else whatever else is called, with the city establishing a cash advance fund. So we're giving you authority to make minor tweaks in it. Nothing of substance. If there's anything of substance, it'll come back to the board.
Correct.
So could we get a motion to that effect?
Does she need to buy suitcases?
Well,
It's a lot of cash.
That's the next agenda item.
do you want
So
that in
moved.
20s or 50s?
10.
So
All
move,
right, I'm waiting for a motion.
so move,
Oh, all right. Judy Begay moved and
I'll second.
Austin Aslan seconded.
Did we have an actual motion there, though?
Yeah, I think I rambled on a little bit because, you know, the basic motion is to authorize our executive director to enter into an IGA with the city. And with the stipulation that she can make minor changes, nothing of substance. So that's the motion. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 aye,
And any opposed? No. So, I mean, there aren't any opposed. That's just, so that was unanimous approval. Thank you, Ms. Morley, for that item. Don't go anywhere. The next one's yours too, item 6. And this one is kind of related. We need to open a money market account, and you're going to tell us why.
Correct, Chair, members of the board. This is related to the suitcases now that we need. So there's two parts here. Approve opening a money market account with Alliance Bank, who is our procured banking partner already, and adopt a resolution that is required by Alliance Bank in order to do so. And we do have documents here to sign afterwards as well. So we'll stick around for that at the end. But essentially this is, so while we need the funding we just talked about to have cash on hand, it's really, it can be feast or famine with how much is in our bank account at any given time. And there are times when if we receive $300,000 from the city, that we will have more than the insured banking limit of $250,000 in our one bank account that we currently have. And so the idea here is to open up a solution with Alliance Bank that would automatically move money between different banks to allow us to keep our total cash available insured. This is also a similar solution to what Mountain Line uses. They actually do the same thing with Alliance Bank. It keeps our Alliance Bank account full so that we can keep writing those checks without having to move money around on a daily basis. But when we go over 250,000, it moves them into another account so that way all of our funding remains insured. So that's essentially what we're doing. I will note that the financial policies of the board actually allow the executive director to open bank accounts. However, Alliance Bank needs an action of the board and the signed resolution. And so that's why this item is in front of you today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? No? Okay, thank you. So can we get a motion to approve the executive director opening a money market account at Alliance Bank and adopt resolution 2024-01 regarding money market banking?
So moved.
Mr.
Second.
Aslan moved.
Second.
Yeah, thank you. And Ms. Begay seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Please.
I was wondering whether or not to bring this up. I'll just mention it briefly. I'm glad we're not dealing with Wells Fargo here. Our community's having some indigestion when it comes to some of our banking institutions. I hope Western Alliance Bank wouldn't be caught up in any of those concerns, but at least we're not right there with that. I just wanted to give voice to that
No.
very briefly, very quickly. That's all.
Yeah, that's a good comment because the council has had a lot of discussions about that over the last couple of years. Any other comments? Mr. Thompson?
Were there other banks that were contacted for their input?
Not at this time because we bank with Alliance Bank, but I believe that when we chose Alliance Bank, we did a competitive process in choosing so. I can't speak to what the evaluation criteria were in that process, but I believe that it was chosen originally through a competitive process.
How long ago was that?
I will have to get back to you on that one.
It wasn't during your time.
Was that during your time or the previous time?
No, previous time.
Okay. All right, we have a motion on the table. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there
Aye.
any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Ms. Morley, I believe you're going to take over Dave Wessel's spot on the next one also, which is talking about the Transportation Improvement Program and the 5-year tentative program with ADOT. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and special thanks to Member Thompson on this one. This was a request of him at the last meeting to go over what is in the ADOT 5-year program, and we're also tying it to the Metro Plan TIP, which is our Transportation Improvement Program, which is where we have to place all of our funds. That's why we've kind of joined these two topics. However, they are specifically related to what ADOT has programmed for construction projects in our region. The list is on the screen, and as staff member Wessel said to all of us, I-40 is the route du jour. As you can see, there's a lot of improvements there for ADOT. So the list you have is what they have identified. There's not anything really of controversy in this list, except for I will point out that there are some ongoing discussions about the type of lighting that they are going to install on Milton. I believe that's Milton and I-40, but I think most of the lights are intended for Milton. The discussion is really around the quality of the dark sky lights. ADOT has committed to doing dark sky lighting, but that means a lot of different things to different people. And the Naval Observatory and Lowell Observatory have some very specific ideas about what they need for it to work for the observatories. So I know that they're in direct contact with ADOT over this. And Member Thompson has suggested to me that Metro Plan show to the State Transportation Board meeting virtually or in person and highlight really that need to coordinate and make sure that the lights do work for our local observatories as they are installed. So those are the projects. There are many more projects that are needed, and actually ADOT just opened up a process for a call for projects essentially. And so we are working with partners and reviewing existing planning documents for additional items to be included in their work program at this time. And if there are members of the board or the public who want to give us ideas, that they can definitely send us those.
So that was for information. We don't need any action. Since you mentioned Lowell Observatory, I read in the paper that our state has designated Pluto as the official state planet. And notice that it's a planet. Any other comments?
Yeah, Kate, have you made Chris Luganbiel aware of these conversations, and he's up to speed on all this?
He is aware, and then in an upcoming agenda item, we'll talk about another opportunity, I think, to share the importance of this with the State Transportation Board, through the State Transportation Board dinner. But I have talked with Chris Luganbuehl, Jeff Hall, and members at the Naval Observatory.
Fantastic. I really appreciate Metro Plan's attention to detail on dark sky preservation and conformance.
Any other questions, comments on this item? Mr. Thompson?
Real quickly, can you use your mic, because our folks online and I think our recording doesn't catch it otherwise.
Okay, thank you for that. Public, again, going back a little bit, public comment period is going to go from March 1st through May 24th. And I would encourage any individuals or organizations that if they have issue or concern about, bring it before either the board or, to the administration. So the board study session is going to be happening on June 6th, 2024. And the state fiscal year starts, of course, on July 1st, 2024. So that's comment made by Kate.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Any other comments?
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Gay, go ahead.
Yes, I didn't catch the first date of how I know I got the May 21st. What is the first date that he gave? She
Mr.
said was
Thompson,
running from what day is it gonna start? And then I got the ending date. Oh, sorry.
I think Mr. Thompson is looking through his notes.
Did he say April?
He's looking through his notes and going to dig it out. Okay, can you hold your mic?
Thank you. The public comment period started on March 1st, and it's going to go through May 24th, 2024. And the public hearing on tentative program will be on May 17th, 2020. And then we're going to all come back together on that. The board will and we'll have a study session on June 6th. And the final approval is going to be on June 21st. Did you get all that, Judy?
Did, yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay. Mila.
Well, thank you. Any other comments, questions? All right, I think we're going to move on to item C8. Mandia Gonzalez is going to do this one, and this is vulnerable road users safety plan update.
Yes, another long name for you all, which I may refer to it as VRU occasionally. Well, thank you, board members. So for those of you that attended our annual advance, we had an exercise with 3 poster prompts that discussed Vision Zero as it relates to this upcoming vulnerable users safety plan. And the 3 prompts included the VRU's purpose, the desired results that our partners would like to see, and any potential constraints for us to consider moving into developing the full detailed scope. So right here is what you're seeing on your screen is what we heard from everyone. So thank you so much for participating and guiding us through this process. So let's start with purpose. We all agree that creating safe travel is a priority in our region. We support MetroPlan establishing a leadership commitment towards 0 deaths and fatalities on our roadways. And the plan should inform policies and future adoption. Under desired results, we do want to create that Vision Zero goals that are informed and shared by our community. We want to use the VRU to set the Vision Zero foundation for our partners by guiding and supporting our partner agencies through new and current safety related policies, programs, and different strategies. And of course, we want to gather and maintain valuable data. And a new data set that we are discussing is working with NAU to do a risk assessment. And that would provide additional insights into our high crash network and how disparate communities may be adversely affected based on our network, on the road types, on the speeds on certain roads, just to name a few. So this is part of a larger equity component as well. Under constraints, the main topic was MetroPlan's lack of authority to require our partners to implement Vision Zero. So we do want to use the VRU planning process to establish a Vision Zero commitment for MetroPlan, while also providing Vision Zero foundation for our partners. This will include some high-level policy recommendations and, of course, those project recommendations for our partner agencies. And as the grantee, the VRU will focus on the MetroPlan region by establishing policies and programs that can be implemented and controlled by our executive board. And since the advance, we have been refining some of the deliverables of this. Yes,
I think we have a question.
sorry.
Well, if you go back to the other slide.
Oh, sure. Let me go.
We really don't need to do this. You were moving on. It was fine. I was just gonna say, I have never seen a politer way to reword the word ignorance before in that second bullet point. The public has the potential to not understand MetroPlan's rule. Very polite.
Yeah. There's often confusion about when we work with our partners and whose plan is it, who's conducting what. So I think it's just providing that clarity for the public so they have their expectations set. All right. So since the advance, we have been refining the deliverables of the Safe Streets and Roads for All, or otherwise known as SS4A funded VRU, the giant scope of work. So as a grantee, we are continuing to review and to ensure that the VRU planning process really meets all of those requirements of that safety action plan and those components, while also attempting to provide new and valuable resources to our partners. So illustrated here are some of the existing plans that will help to inform the VRU safety plan with the goal of having, this holistic planning project that meets both the community and the partners' needs. And this includes our Regional Transportation Safety Plan, which you just recently adopted. Thank you. And the city's Active Transportation Master Plan and the Residential Traffic Management Guide. So on the right of this list here is just kind of a high-level list of some of the results that our partners are really looking for. So we're going to go ahead and start with Metro Plan here. Obviously, we want to establish our commitment. That is a requirement of the SS4A planning grant. We are going to establish a transportation safety group. That is also a requirement. We are going to review and make recommended policy changes to our federally required documents. This includes our regional transportation plan, transportation, and oh my gosh, you just said it. Investment program. The tip. Yes, thank you. Yeah. And others like that. We are going to create this new risk assessment tool, which will be a new data set that we can all use to make informed decisions. Obviously, we're going to identify and prioritize projects with the emphasis on what we as Metro Plan can implement. So this might look a little bit more in the programmatic realm, and really trying to give not only us, but our partners a 2 to 5 year span for some of these, whether it's plans, policies, programs, projects in the future. So really laying that out clearly with our partners. And then, of course, prioritizing our regional infrastructure investments with our partners so we can ensure that they make it into your safety plans or within your capital improvement programs as well. So for the City of Flagstaff, you already have a statement, a commitment to Vision Zero within the Active Transportation Master Plan. So really, we want to use this opportunity to support many of the goals in that plan. This also sets the foundation for a future SS4A grant, which Sandra just submitted. We are submitting that grant for a Safe Streets Master Plan, and that gets into a lot more detail that will help the city with engineering and design standards and get a deeper dive into the policies that this current planning effort just doesn't have the capacity to do within the budget. And then for the county, they are also applying for an SS4A action safety grant. This one will be the broader one that focuses not only on bikes and peds, but include vehicles as well. Well, you know, we can have a very interesting take on it, being that we are within the city limits in our region. Obviously, the county is a lot bigger, so they're going to need their own plan to, you know, address the rural parts of the county in a better way. And here's just a quick overview of our next steps. You know, we're continuing to refine that scope with more details on these deliverables to meet our agency partner needs. We want to establish this traffic safety group or transportation safety group with not only agency staff, but with community members as well. We have a few names in the hat already. We are continuing our conversations with our partners. We've heard interest in our partners about how they might want to use this plan, whether they use it as a foundational document to support the other items coming, or if there may be components of it that could be adopted by those agencies and how they use those. And then lastly, that new data set, that one's very important and we're very excited about that one. And I think that is the last of this. Are there any questions or comments?
I'm not hearing any questions or comments.
All right. Well, thank you all. And we do plan to bring that scope to you at the next meeting for your review and hopefully approval.
I have a comment.
Yes.
As you go back to the slide of where it has the county on there.
Mhm.
Right there, provide a Vision Zero foundation that can be built upon to support the larger counties. I think as you did the Metro Plan, I think we need to get that established, something in regards to bullet points. And once the county provides that, I think that would be good to be in it to be in this plan here. You know
Great.
what I mean?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And thank you. Any more comments?
Thanks.
Well, that was for information only. So our next item is a legislative update by Ms. Morley.
Thank you. We did not intend to make you listen to me so much today, but there you have it.
We're not complaining.
Okay, so this two sets of our legislative update today. We'll talk first about what we adopted as legislative priorities at the state level and then at the federal level. The bullet points in blue are the items specifically in our adopted legislative agenda. So the first one is changes to the Arizona Smart Fund, which is matching funds for federal discretionary transportation grants. The language was written pretty fast last year, and there were some discrepancies over who could and couldn't apply for funding. And so we worked with the DOT, and Karen Cruz, our lobbyist, has joined us virtually today as well, to propose changes to the Arizona Smart Fund to clean up some of that, and in the process make additional entities eligible. So the interpretation was that only cities and counties were eligible to apply for these funds, but many types of entities are eligible to apply for the federal discretionary grants. So the new language really cleans it up so that anyone who's eligible for the federal discretionary grant could receive Smart Fund to match it, including MPOs, including transit systems, including tribes. These were all entities that the previous version were interpreted to not be allowed to participate in the Smart Fund. So in really good news, this has been approved by the legislature and is just waiting signature from the governor at this point. So we're very excited to have proposed those changes and moved them forward, and think it will really benefit some members in our region to be able to use those matching funds to pursue grants. The RTAC bill, this is the Rural Transportation Advocacy Council bill, which is a rural effort to highlight the transportation needs throughout the state. And each COG or MPO throughout the state is able to ask for a determined amount of money for projects in its region. They all move forward in a bill. There's never an intention that the bill itself will pass because it's quite a large bill. However, it allows you to speak to the different topics, and then members or individual projects can be advocated for through the budget process, in addition to getting noticed through the RTAC bill. So the board approved the projects on the list in front of you last fall. It was matched for the Mountain Line Maintenance Facility. Part of this was an effort to identify that need for the Smart Fund changes, saying if the Smart Fund allowed transit agencies to apply for match, we could use that funding source. The county has obviously their big needs on US 89 related to flood mitigation. And then the Lone Tree Bridge improvements were the final piece because there are some funding, or there were at the time at least some funding gaps on the Lone Tree Bridge. So that bill has stalled. It is not anticipated to go anywhere. I believe the only entity really out there continuing to advocate for their funding is the county. There are some budget challenges at the state this year, so I think we're unsure about the future of that process, but it has been well received because of the emergent nature of the project. The next bullet is long-term funding solutions. So this is really about the gas tax and the fact that the gas tax has not been increased in a long time. And we need more than these one-off RTAC bills or appropriations for particular projects. We really need a long-term funding solution. We've been working with the RTAC, again, the Rural Transportation Advocacy Council, which our chair and vice chair are members of, to identify long-term funding solutions. There's some discussion about that group asking a consultant to gather some data about how big the needs truly are, and then to look at potential funding sources. I think from the Metro Plan perspective, we've really been advocating that anything we do, we need to be identifying the solution and not just the problem, and really proposing that so that members of the legislature have ideas about how they should solve it, and that there's a unified voice about that. And then the final one at the state level are to advocate for regional projects on the state highway system. We talked a little bit about what's in the construction program. There are some good things. We've made good progress on the list. There's a more detailed list in your staff report about what those identified things are. The major gap at this point are some of the elements of the US 180 and Milton corridor plans, particularly some crossing improvements that are identified for those corridors. So that would be something to look forward to with the next round of construction funding, and items that we might want to be advocating for at the state level related to the state highway system. So I will pause before I move to federal and see if there's any questions or other topics that weren't state topics that weren't necessarily our 4 bullets that somebody wanted us to discuss.
Any questions? Mr.
Just,
Thompson?
just
go
one. The past board meeting we had, we were able to approve at least 4 applications for Smart Fund. And in the previous, before that, the Transportation Board has been very good at recognizing the needs as justified by the counties. In particular, in this area, quite a bit of money has gone into, well, for the whole region. So that, wanted to say thank you, Chair.
You're certainly welcome. Any other comments, questions? All right, Ms. Marley, take
Okay.
on.
Yeah, on the federal side, so the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act renewal is starting to become a large topic of discussion. And really our number 1 priority there is to continue the programs for 5 more years. 5 years is really just enough time. People are starting to figure out what they want to apply for. There's a ton of need. Most of the programs are oversubscribed in request versus funding available. They really think that there's a lot of benefit to continuing that. And so we are, that is the ultimate ask at the federal level. And then we have some pieces within that that are, you know, icing on the cake if we can continue to do that. So one, I've noted here that we want to keep the discretionary programs. And to give you a little bit of background on that, there are some groups, including AMPO, which is the Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations, for which we are a member, where there are a lot of discussion about going to formula funds because the competitive application process can be a challenge. And I do understand that, and I do respect that. I think the challenge is that the cost of construction has gotten so high that we need these massive pots of funding to be available through discretionary programs. If, for example, we were to move the RAISE program, a program that often gives out $15 million, $20 million grants, to formula funds and just divvied it up by population across the US, it's much more likely everybody's only getting for $500,000, which isn't going to get a capital project built at this stage. And so I really do believe that keeping the discretionary programs while writing applications is a challenge is the right move, because it's the only way we're going to get the major projects that are so expensive done across the country, let alone in our region. When we tend to get those smaller awards in the hundreds of thousands of dollars range, because there are a lot of requirements to federalize a project, you pay different wages, you have to do a NEPA, et cetera, it doesn't become worth it. We end up spending it on very minor things, some signage updates, those types of projects, rather than doing something like the Butler improvements that were awarded through the Safe Streets for All the Safe Streets for All capital grant that was awarded for Butler. And then finally, and again, a little bit of icing on the cake would be if FHWA would allow a little bit more discretion in some programs for staffing. In particular, the carbon reduction program is one of those programs where we get about $170,000 a year, but we're not allowed to use it on staffing, which would actually probably be our most beneficial activity, to have people like our TDM planner, Kim Austin, who can advance things on the ground at the small level without having a massive pot of funding. So when there are the small pots of money, it would be nice to allow us to get people to implement things or do planning efforts. Our second item is not only do we want to keep those discretionary grants and funding levels, we want to go after those funds. And so there is a political process to discretionary grants. While we do not contract with Nexus Consulting, our partners do, and we do coordinate with them because the grants we are writing are often in partnership with our partners. And so we want to go after and obtain that discretionary funding. And then finally, we want to enhance safety. This has been a theme of the year that we're hearing about some particular things at the national level that are ongoing that we can help support are updating car safety ratings. Right now, they're only about the occupants of the vehicle, which is very important, but how the car is designed can also impact the survivors outside of the car. And so this wouldn't be telling manufacturers what to do. It would be notifying consumers what that impact is of the car that they're buying on their likelihood of injuring someone else. And then the MUTCD is the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. It sets standards nationwide for the design of our roadways. And if we can make tweaks within that document, they flow down throughout the country. FHWA, Federal Highway Administration, just updated this. They did a lot of great things, but there's a lot more work to be done. They have committed to doing regular updates. They had not been doing them for some time. And so we'll continue to watch those updates, and they ask for feedback on the things that they're changing. So we will continue to do that. And that is my federal update.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? All right, Ms.
I do
Go
have a
ahead.
question.
Please go ahead.
You're all aware that recently Flagstaff City Council lowered the speed limit on Butler. Actually, I think it was last week we ratified that. Can you speak to that? Does that play into any of this at all? Does it make us more competitive for grant opportunities? Just curious about the larger.
Yeah, when I'm
context.
writing grant opportunities, I am writing about the Safe Systems approach, which is up on your screen, which is an FHWA approach to safety. And there's 5 components, and you'll see safer speeds is one of those components. Speeds is the #1 factor in identifying the severity of crashes. And so I want to be able to say that the city, the county, whoever we're writing the application for, is approaching this from a safe systems approach. And I want to be able to talk about things that we're doing in each of the categories. So yes, it's awesome to be able to write in an application that the county or the council is actively taking action to lower speeds in alignment with a safe systems approach. That is a good thing to write in a grant application. Similarly, we're going to bring back a proposal to do a Safer People campaign, basically an educational campaign for people to remember driving habits, but also understand how to use some of our newer infrastructure that we haven't taught them how to use, the different types of crossings we have in town. Are you supposed to stop, not stop? What if nobody's there? Those kinds of questions that we know people experience. And so by doing that, we can check the box and tell people in our federal applications, we're doing a safe systems approach. We're doing Safer People campaigns. So those are all really positive things to write when I put together grant applications.
Good comment. So anything else? All right, next item is 10, and that's the State Transportation Board dinner. Any comments on that, Ms. Morley?
Yeah, I wanted to run this over with you. You will note Member Thompson just identified some activities occurring at the June 21st State Board Transportation meeting, which will occur in these chambers, actually. It will be a local meeting. And the State Transportation Board travels around the state. They end up coming to Flagstaff every other year or so. It depends on the chair of the board at the time. And it is tradition to host a dinner for the State Transportation Board the night before. And so we've been talking with partners about what our key messages might want to be, and then how might we facilitate that through a dinner. And we're thinking it would be quite a nice event to highlight the new NAU Mountain Line CDL course. CDL driver shortages are a problem across the country. It will be nice to show them the collaboration, the fact that we're trying to do some workforce development, and highlight transit, which is something that ADOT does have transit programs, but maybe are not at the top of the mind of the State Transportation Board members at all times. So a nice way to highlight some of those activities. We've been thinking about key messages, and part of what we'd love to hear from board members today or over the coming months is what are the other items we really want to highlight with the board. We've identified some of those missing US 180 in Milton, plan items for implementation that we'd like to move forward, particularly crossings. There's been a lot of discussion around crossings at Humphreys associated with Flag High. Now that more students are riding the Mountain Line bus system, they have to cross Humphreys there. As well as Mountain Line still is pursuing its light at the DCC. Forest and 180 is the spot that comes up frequently for crossing. So some opportunities to really ask them to fund the improvements that they've identified in those plans. Lighting, we talked a little bit about lighting earlier. Lowell Observatory would like to come out to the CDL course and bring telescopes. They will determine what we can look at on June 20th, the middle of summer at 5:30, and bring the appropriate scopes, but really use it as an opportunity to be able to educate State Transportation Board members and ADOT leadership about why it's not just, yes, it's dark sky lighting or not, but all the details that matter to them and why it's important. And then finally, to highlight transit, as I mentioned, as something that ADOT should remember to focus on as well. So the actual meeting for the state board is on June 21st, as I mentioned here in council chambers. But in terms of the night before, we're interested in hearing if there's other things you'd like to see at the dinner. If you think this format of it's a little bit more casual, it's not a sit down dinner at a restaurant, more like heavy hors d'oeuvres. There may be opportunity to drive buses on the CDL course. You do not have to have a CDL license to do that. And have a little bit of fun and more one-on-one dialogue at the event. And then also, please save these dates in your calendar.
To save these days in my calendar, and I noticed the State Transportation Board dinner is already there,
Phew.
but the meeting the next day is not.
No, it's not yet.
Right.
As Chairman, as it was mentioned, I always feel that it's good for the board, what they're doing, going around the state, so they can actually feel the struggle in each of these communities. So I really emphasize the importance of maybe to continue the sports, the small fun, to demonstrate to the board what difference, how big is the difference the small fun and, these projects will have. So thank you very much.
Yes, I've gone to, well, one time I went to one of these dinners and it was good to sit down across the table and get to know people and, instead of in the abstract, it's like, wow, they're real people. Judy Begay, maybe when we get down to items from the board, you could, I'm just warning you ahead of time, maybe make some comments about what the County Board of Supervisors has done towards a new appointment to the board for Northern Arizona. And Jesse Thompson has been serving extra time, extra credit he gets for that. We really appreciate you coming to our board meetings and until that new appointment is made. Okay.
I'm prepared to do that.
Okay. Thank you. The next thing is Metro Plan happenings, and we're going to have to put up with Miss Morley again.
I know. A lot going on in events in May. It seems to be event month. So we have a number of conferences. We are taking a collective of members to NACTO, the National Association of Transportation Officials, which is a group that is really promoting things such as multimodal transportation systems, improving safety, and leading some of those efforts we talked about on safety and the federal priorities. We are bringing, as I said, it's a multi-agency collective, 2 staff members from the city of Flagstaff, 2 staff members from Mountain Line, myself and Vice Chair Sweet to the event. It's really the foremost conference in the country on what I would say is more cutting edge transportation design and infrastructure. So we're very excited about that. We are using a 5305E grant, the Transit into Code grant, to send people there. That was a partnership with Mountain Line, and so everybody's on board with this. And we're very excited about the interagency group going and having these dialogues together about how we can advance our systems. Earth Day is April 20th, so while you have your calendars out, don't forget to join us at Bushmaster Park. We will be there talking about our Cheshire project, getting people to sign up for that May 18th paint day, and doing some safety activities as well. And then we are doing some things with Bike Month. So we wanted to, there's 2 items in bold on the screen that we wanted to particularly draw to your attention. One is the kickoff ride at City Hall on May 1st. I believe that that is usually about 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm not exactly sure of the time. But if you need a bike, we will help connect you to a bike and a helmet. The point of the ride is to engage decision makers and elected officials. So please join us for that. And then the most fun event, in my opinion, is Bike to Breakfast, where you can have about 12 breakfasts around town if you arrive on your bike, and they are delicious. Some of our great local food vendors are participating in that. So pay attention to social media. Lots going on for Bike Month. It tends to be really fun and maybe a little bit windy.
Well, I won't make May 1st Bike Month because I'll be at the White House. Okay, anything for more happenings or any questions or? I think we're down to D1, which is items from the board. Let's go around. Judy Begay, let's start with you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We had a board meeting as the vacancy occurred. The county had earlier made a recommendation to the governor's office regarding the state board vacancy, or is going to be vacant as soon as the governor approved someone. But anyway, but that kind of fell through for whatever reasons. But anyway, we did get 2 applicants, and one person showed up during our board meeting, which is on April 2nd, a couple of days ago. And we only interviewed one person, and so the board just went on ahead and made a made a recommendation. We're going to be forwarding a recommendation as a board nominee for Charlie Odegaard to the governor for consideration to be on the State Transportation Board. So that's what we have up to now as far as the position is concerned.
That's great. Thank you. Mr. Odegaard served on this board at one point a few years ago, so I think he would be very well qualified, and he's a good guy. Anything else, Ms. Begay?
That's about it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Aslan, you got anything for us?
I do not.
Tony Williams.
I do, Chair McCarthy. I'd like to just take a moment to extend congratulations and kudos to Kate and the MetroPlan team. I recently met with Heather Dahlman, Mountain Line CEO and General Manager, and wanted to share with you some comments that she's put together to share with her TAC and board members. It really gets at the importance of the Arizona Smart Fund bill and the significance of Kate's involvement. So I just want to share with you what is going to be shared out this month by Heather. It states, Kate Morley and MetroPlan were instrumental in crafting language to modify Arizona's Smart Fund bill to ensure that transit and other federal grantees like MetroPlan are eligible for these funds. Smart Fund legislation was enacted last year as a formal local match that could be used for any transportation project in a rural area. The original language identified only cities and counties as eligible recipients and left transit authorities and metropolitan planning agencies out. It was always our understanding that the intention was to include transit projects since agencies like Mountain Lion and are the federal recipient of funding. As such, we needed also to be named as eligible for SMART funds or have no access. Kate's leadership resulted in corrective language that has now passed the House and Senate, as she shared with us earlier today, and is now awaiting governor's signature. As chairman of the Mountain Lion Board, and on behalf of Heather and everyone at Mountain Lion, we're grateful to Kate for the support of the Metro Plan Board to work with ADOT and the governor's office to make this change. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Another example of working together, doing teamwork. Did you have a comment, Mr. Thompson? Or?
Yeah, I know Charlie quite well. I think he's a good person, to take on the responsibility of being a member on the State Transportation Board. The next meeting will be on Friday, April 19th in Buckeye. And it sounds that we're moving along quite well with many of the projects. I have not seen any time that there's a big issue on any projects. They're going in accordance to what our engineers and the people recommend to us based on the projections of the monies that come in. And it's not only one or two people, there's a bunch of people coming together to make those projections. So I'm really proud of the board that I'm with them and as well as the staff. So again, thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you. Kate, do you or your staff have any comments you'd like to throw in right now?
I think we presented everything for you.
Yeah, well, good meeting. I appreciate that. Our next meeting is on May 2nd. I don't know if we'll be back from DC on that date or not. So I might miss that meeting, but it's for good reason. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Mr. Aslan is going, and of course, Becky Daggett is. We're going to do some lobbying, and if there's something you want us to put in a good word for, we're going to be having a meeting to kind of, see what we should be talking about in DC, where we need help. So I'm about ready to adjourn, but I want to last call. Does anybody have any comments they'd like to make? All right, we are adjourned at approximately 2:22. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.